I knew that if I said it, that it was gonna hurt. I knew you cut me like a knife, so I thought I could first. But I didn't really mean it. I didn't mean a goddamn thing. What I should have said was...
Welcome back to the Rugged Revival podcast. This is episode 3. We're getting there already. And we've got the awesome Josh Mitcham with us today. We've had a brilliant mix of guests so far. We've had Jack Browning from the UK. We've had Anna Scott last week, all the way from Nashville. And now it's over to Kentucky. We've had a mixture of young people, and now we're willing out the old folk. So I say willing out the old folk.
I was waiting for you to say that.
You're probably the same age as me, or there or thereabouts. So I'm taking a piss at myself as well, Josh here. So Josh is from Kentucky, as I just said. He's a musician, artist, host of the Every Damn Friday podcast, and host of the Ramble at the Randall, and a family man, if you've gone through your Instagram and your socials. So it's brilliant. You've got a real mixture there. We met through Instagram initially, didn't we? I remember you sending me a copy of your new album at the time, Little Fires, and I had a good listen. We got talking ever since. You probably regret sending me now, because I've just been bugging you ever since.
No, look, it's one of those things where when I started playing music, it was like there was all these gatekeepers to like how you could make contact with people, and you didn't have people's emails or any direct contact. And with social media, there's a few assholes out there who won't reply to you. But for the most part, I've had a lot of luck over the years just saying, hey, I'm an independent artist, or I have a podcast. My name is Josh. Will you give this a listen? Or would you like to be on the podcast? Or would you like to come play in my barn? And usually because everybody's so used to that, direct messaging and all that, that I get a lot of good response.
No, and I appreciate that, and I make a conscious effort of listening to it, as much as I can, the stuff that people send over, and because you've made the effort to contact me, and I think it's absolutely worth a listen. I love the album, actually, and I give you a bit of feedback on it, and I think it was awesome, so I appreciate it.
So I'm in that place in my life and in my career where summer was over and I had some songs. And I holed up in the shop here where I have my studio. I had my kids involved. It was like a stream of consciousness thing. There was no real style or whatever. It wasn't a concept record or anything. It was just like, I got some songs. Let's go out here and play around. And I'm in a neat place to where I can do that now. Not that I couldn't do that before, but we can talk about the early years. But I'm fiercely independent and ornery now. So
I love that, mate. I love that. It's we'll go into your music. I mean, it's been quite a wide range of styles that you've been doing, and every time you put out an album, I was checking out on Spotify earlier, it's not just one or two songs. You put out quite a number of tracks on each album, and it's
it's a disease. So you mentioned earlier, I do multiple things, and cheers, by the way.
Cheers, mate.
My EDD requires that I have multiple projects going all the time, and that's the way it's always been. And so, like, if I have like a big art project going on, like once that's over, I've got to get away from that, and then I'll go and do, work on some music stuff. Or in my career, I work in education, and summertime, I actually run a summer camp. I work for our state Department of Education and run a summer camp. So once June and July are over, like I need some therapy, and that's what that was. I came out to the shop every night for a few hours and just, I started out with some songs that I thought were going to be on there, and you end up writing 3 or 4 or 5 more, and you cut the old ones, and Little Fires was that. And it's called Little Fires because I have so many things going on all the time that, literally it's like, my wife was like, you're doing what? You're working on another album? like, don't you need to mow the yard and work on the barn? I'm like, well, I need to get this out.
Are you really trying to find excuses not to do the stuff that you need to do around the house?
Yes, I am the worst.
Caught you out there. It's no, it's something that you put out on one of your, I think, your Instagram stories made me laugh about this skit with the doctor diagnosing somebody with being artistic, and it resonated with me quite well because I'm just a bit like you, not as talented as you, mate, but so many projects that you just love to do. We never monetize any of it. We never finish half of it, but it keeps us busy and interested.
I don't know what the outcome will be, and but I just want to do as much stuff as I can while I'm alive, and maybe at the end there's a big pile of something that they'll either burn or will, maybe my grandkids will think it's neat, and I don't know. It's kind of frenetic, and sometimes I feel like a psychopath, but it's just like, I don't know. You're only going to do this once, and you have all these opportunities, and I really try hard not to say no to things. I mean, no is powerful, and I have learned when to say no. My wife has helped me with when to say no, but you just never know what is the thing that's going to open a door or get a foot in a door. It's like the music has parlayed into art for me, the same as art has parlayed into music, or my career and the associations there have parlayed into some other projects for me. It all sometimes it's symbiotic, and it all kind of feeds the other thing. But I don't know. Like I said, I think I'm a psychopath.
No, your family quite supportive, your wife quite supportive of all the projects that you got going on then?
Yeah, so a little bit of history. So I was a high school teacher for 15 years, and I taught agriculture. I didn't teach music or art. I live on a farm now. I grew up on a farm, and that was something I was passionate about. But I was playing music. I started playing music in college with a group, and we played through like the first 10 years of my teaching career, and I was doing both. So she was used to me doing all sorts of stuff all the time. We started having kids. But after my third child, after Jonah was born, I quit teaching and toured full time with a band called Jericho Woods. And that was one of those things, like, it took me a year to convince everybody it was a good idea. And my dad was like, you've got a retirement, like, you've got insurance, you've got all these things, why would you give up that security to go do this stuff? I'm like, I know you don't understand, but it's like, I got to do this thing now. And because I did that, I owe my wife, she gets whatever she wants because she gave me that opportunity to do that. She wasn't always happy about it. And she wasn't always like, hope you're having a great time out there while I'm at home with the kids, but she let me do it, and I paid the bills. And now that I'm back to work, and I'm in a capacity now where I have a lot of free time, but I'm so that, she lets me scratch the itch.
Yeah.
Well, she doesn't let me do anything, but she don't want me to be gone all the time. She's really excited about going to Florida next spring, but.
And you were there recently, weren't you? So, and it was that for your anniversary. So, congratulations for that too.
20 years. I can't believe I've done anything for 20 years.
Awesome, man. But so I think it's a good segue actually to talk to us about Kentucky and your kind of life growing up there, because it sounds super interesting and something that's very different perhaps to what we used to in the UK.
Yeah, so I grew up about a mile from where I am now. You find me in my grandfather's old shop that I've converted into my studio. I bought their house after they passed away. So I'm living on the family farm now. We were able to buy it a couple years ago. But yeah, I mean, music wise, I always kind of did it. Like, I remember having like a Casio keyboard and a cassette, like, boom box that I would, record little stupid songs on about baseball players or whatever. And then through high school was involved in choir and chorus, and and it was a cool thing to do at my school. Like, you could play sports and be in the in the, the choir shows and the plays and all that. It was a very, good place, a very supportive community, real small town, small school, and everybody did everything. So that was great. I went to a school called Western Kentucky University, and met some guys in the lobby of the dorm. They were playing, and this sounds like a cliche, but they were playing Sweet Home Alabama by Leonard Skinner. And I was like, can I go get my guitar and come jam with y'all? And they were like, yeah. And we ended up playing together for like 12 years. It was a band called Floored. And we did that was the first time I did the whole Nashville thing. I had a great manager. We had the same manager as Little Big Town and a guy named Daryl Worley, who were both on the radio at the time. We were playing all over the place, but I didn't know what I had. Like, I kept waiting for somebody to hand me a record contract, and I was waiting for my managers to do all the work, and we were idiots. Like, I would have been divorced and had a drug problem if I'd stayed with those guys. Even though they're like my best friends in the world, we would have not have been good for each other on the road 250 days. But so that kind of got out of it for a little while. And Jericho Woods, I guess, was maybe my midlife crisis, where I felt like I had left something on the table. I didn't quite get satisfied from the first round of the Nashville deal. So Jericho Woods, we were together for about 8 years. Did the whole thing, had videos on CMT, recorded records with great people, and toured all over and played with all sorts of people. It was wonderful. It was the experience that I wanted. But at the end of the day, I don't like being gone all the time. And I found that I drove home a lot faster than I drove away. And my kids were getting bigger. And in 2019, we'd had our best year. We played all the big festivals that we wanted to play. And we had a new record. But we were getting tired. And we decided, hey, we're going to take the winter off. We're going to take the winter of, this was November of 2019. So let's take 6 months off. In the spring of 2020, we'll pick it back up. And of course, COVID hit, and, that all kind of got shot to hell. So needless to say, that was a hiccup for me, just like it was everybody else. But that's when I worked on the barn. So I started working on the Randall barn, and to steal a kind of a quote from one of my friends, Jen Tackett, I spent most of my life trying to sit at other people's tables, like trying to get ride somebody's coattails, or try to slide in because I knew somebody, or get on this show because you'd play with this person. And she was like, just build your own table and invite the people that you want to be associated with. So the barn kind of gave me that avenue to say, I'm going to invite people to come play here. I'm going to expose them to my friends and family and community. Treat them right, pay them, feed them, give them some good Kentucky bourbon and some cold Diet Millers. And that's turned out, we're doing our 6th show. That's turned out to be a blessing, which led to the podcast. But I've been doing solo music, I guess, since 2020. And that's kind of where I find myself now. It was tough going from 20,000 followers on Facebook to 0.
Starting again, yeah.
But at the same time, then it's like you do whatever you want, and you talked about how old I was. So I guess I've been playing music for 25 years. So I'll be 40, or a little bit longer than that. I'll be 45 in November, and I don't know, like, it just doesn't bother me anymore. Like, there was a period of time where people were like, you're probably too old to do this or that or whatever. And now I just don't give a shit. Like, it's like, I can put a record out every week on Spotify if I wanted to. I can handle all my own social media. I make my own merch. I book my own shows. I've got great musicians that are willing to play with me when I need a full band. It's like, I can do this. I can run my own website. it's like I learned a whole lot from the whole thing to know that I can do this by myself, and it doesn't have to be huge, and I don't have to be selling out stadiums. If I can just get 200 people to come to the barn, it makes me happy. So.
No, that seems like a real comfortable place to be, and that's got to be quite impactful on your creative freedom as well, being able to do exactly what you want to do when you want to do, and like you say, invite the people that you think matters and into your space.
Yeah, I'm fans of these people. Nick Jamerson and Jonathan Payton and his wife. I'm fans of their music. It's as much for me to have I'm being selfish. I get to have these great people come and sing at my house on my farm, and I don't care if anybody else shows up, but it does give me a ton of freedom. And I'm sorry, I talked for like 10 minutes straight just then. I realize that.
Well, I told you at the beginning, my voice might not hold out after my man flu for the past week, so I was hoping you would take over a little bit more.
Well, but just tell me to shut up at any point where you're like, I'm not ready to talk about that.
Absolutely not, mate. No, we'll go around whatever circles we want. I'm doing the same thing. Well, not to the same levels as you, Josh, but I'm doing the podcast for the reason that I want to talk to the people I want to talk to, that I'm fans of. I'm fans of your music, fans of Nick Jamerson, and everyone else that you're putting up at Ramble at the Randall, and it's amazing.
We probably have the same amount of viewers at this point. But somebody told me too, they were like, you have to do the first one before you can do the 100th episode.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But you can't skip to that part. Now, people are skipping to stardom because of social media now, and that's been kind of a frustrating thing as an old guy who, I came from the old school where, okay, you want to book an agent? Well, go play 1,000 shows first, and then we might sign you to to our agency. Or you go sell 10,000 records, then we might give you a record deal. And now I'm happy for them. I really am. I'm tickled that kids are able to just post something on TikTok and get this instant stardom. I hope they can handle it. I know Wyatt Flores, he dealt with a lot of mental health issues this past year just because it came so quick. I watched the Zach Bryan, Bruce Springsteen interview the other night, and just like Bruce Springsteen couldn't believe that, the first time he played a live show was in front of like 5,000 people, because it had all happened so fast for him. But for me, it's been, it's still kind of the slow build, like one fan at a time, one little show at a time, one album at a time. And I'm not gonna stop doing this until I'm dirt. So maybe by the time I'm ready to hang it up when I'm 85, maybe I can sell 10 or 12 records by then.
Well, I think we're cut from the same mold, mate. I prefer that old school method, and I think it's more meaningful personally. You're building up a fan base that is there for you and likes the thing. It's not a case of going viral. It's a case of, doing meaningful work. And I think that's part of the kind of revival aspect of what we do, is bringing back, the good old times, and that kind of hard work that is involved in it, and not overnight stardom.
Well, and that's been the great thing about all the Kentucky music that's come out. It is a real community. It's like, I played on bills with Tyler Childers multiple times, and a lot of these artists that are having a lot of success, and we all played the same bars, and he played the same. We all played Red Barn. We all played the same festivals around the tri-state, and supported each other and was happy when they did well. So my experience here, it's been, the festival that I just got on next spring, where I'm playing with Tyler on the same day as Tyler, I read some of the comments on there, and it was interesting. It's very much a modern country festival. It has a lot of pop country, and you could tell by the other nights, like Lainey Wilson and Blake Shelton Sam Hunt and that kind of stuff. And then on that Saturday, it's Tyler and Red Clay Strays and I'll be playing for the lunch crowd. But there's a lot of people there like, who the hell, like who are these people? Because they're not on the radio. And to me, it's like, how do you not know who these people are? Like, because Tyler is grassroots. Like it's, even Zach Bryan is a grassroots thing because it wasn't developed in the normal Nashville machine, where we spend $1 million with radio promotion and that's how you get a number one,
I'm really interested in like the different aspects of the country scene, and I think Texas has got its thing going on. Kentucky certainly. I feel at home personally with the Kentucky scene, with the music that I listen to, with Tyler. That really got me kind of intrigued in that sort of things. I think is it Chris Stapleton's from Kentucky as well, Lexington. You've got a really good crowd there. So how does the kind of scene differ? Because I know Nashville is very, very different, isn't it?
So you have to be careful, and we kind of fell victim to that. So Nashville is like LA. And it's actually a lot of those people from LA, from the rock and pop scene, have relocated to Nashville. So you have that sensibility that it's a big business, it's a corporate type thing. There are hierarchies and gatekeepers. There's only 4 or 5 big labels in town, and the songwriters are real important there, which I appreciate. I think those guys, they work really hard. But it's a machine. They call it a 10-year town because you have to you have to play all the open mics, and then maybe you get a publishing deal, and then maybe you get picked up by a label, but they're only going to do a couple sides or a couple cuts, and it's all right there. Like it all happens in that place. We went there a lot, and what ended up happening with Jericho Woods, not that I wasn't happy and proud of all the music we did, but from the beginning to the end, you kind of start chasing some stuff, and we kind of got away because we were a little bit, a little bit more rock than like Tyler and some of that was. And so in order to try to fit in somewhere, we started kind of like, okay, well, with this, like you'd write a song and go, what can I do to this to make it fit the Nashville model? And you really started I felt like we started pandering a little bit. I'm not ashamed of it, but we were just trying to make it work. And at the end, I'm like, this doesn't sound like what I was doing, 5 years ago. So the machine kind of sucks you in, and it's not artist based, It's the people in control are the ones pulling all the strings. It's not you're not being wowed by somebody's talent and everybody trying to lift that thing up. It's like, no, this person is going to have a number one song next, and then this person's going to have and that kind of stuff happens too. Now, I've made lots of friends who work in Nashville and who work for labels, who work for PR companies and all that. It's just it just wasn't fun for me towards the end. And I'd just rather flounder out here in the ether,
Well, when it starts to become like a job, isn't it? It just takes the kind of fun out of it.
And again, it's like, it's okay when you're the only one doing it. Like when you're the one sending the emails and you're the one, but I was relying on lots of people, and I'm not sure that anybody works as hard for you as you will. And I was talking to Sunny Sweeney yesterday. She's a Texas girl, and she's like, it's hard to find somebody who believes in your dream like you believe in your dream. Even musicians in your band. So everybody else is just trying to get paid, and 20% here and 10% here and 15% here. Nick and I had a long conversation about that because Nick should be bigger than he is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Nick could be. And I make the argument, and I did in the podcast, that there's no Tyler without Nick. Nick was enough years ahead of Tyler that I know he looked up to him and he was an idol, But Nick kind of likes being in that place where, you're not paying a lot for production. You're not paying a lot. You don't have a lot of people on staff. And, I think and there's two different types of people. There are entertainers, and then there are artists.
Mm.
And you're talking about the two different styles, the Nashville sound versus maybe some of the other regional sounds. Luke Bryan is an entertainer.
Yeah.
Right. He's just trying to make people happy. He's trying to fill up stadiums. He's trying to have a good time. I have no problem with that. And I like some of his music. I feel the same way about a Morgan Wallen or, any of those people. It may not be the music I listen to all the time, but I'm not going to shit all over it, right? I tend to gravitate more towards artists.
Yes.
And people who pick a path. It's like I got to meet John Prine a couple years ago before he passed away. And you talk about somebody whose career kind of did it was up and down and probably broke and never was a multimillionaire, right? But at the end of his life, his body of work spoke for itself. And he had young fans again, like people's grandkids were discovering him and being like, I really like this. And it's like, I think that's that's the North Star. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to be sincere, trying to be honest, trying to be fun and creative and clever and all those things, without really kind of saying what would sound good how can I make this good for the radio?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really interesting. I mean, like you say, I'm in total agreement. I'm drawn towards artists, and that's who I speak to online and people that I'm interested in speaking to. And Nick Jameson, I listened to your podcast recently with him, and he's such an interesting character because he seems so laid back and unlike anyone else that I've heard who's had such great records out. And he seems really comfortable, though, in that kind of space that he's built.
I think it has a lot to do with the fact that Kentucky is a place, and I think across the state, it's a large state, but I knew all sorts of people who played music, and played instruments and sang. And so it wasn't this, people would recognize that you were good maybe, but they weren't like it wasn't an uncommon thing for somebody to be able to play guitar and sing. Right. And I think you grow up around that and you realize that there probably are people that are better than you, and you kind of owe it to them to work really hard and not just put out, fluff. And, and I think he comes from that same, I don't live in Appalachia. I live a little bit further west in Kentucky. I'm closer to where John Cougar Mellencamp grew up in Indiana. Actually, Bill Monroe, his birthplace is about 40 minutes from here. So I'm closer more to bluegrass than mountain music.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's part of it. There's a tradition, and you don't want your grandparents or your uncles to be like, what the hell are you playing? Like, what is that junk? Like that, you kind of owe it to the heritage to try to do a good job and honor it.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because, when I listen to Tyler, I don't feel that he's making music for the Nashville sound or that type of thing. So why do you think he kind of broke the mold?
He did it right, first of all. He went out as a solo artist, and he toured by himself for a while, and there's pictures of him playing in diners where nobody's listening, right? 8 years ago. But he was real, I fell victim to, all right, we're getting paid for this. Let's play some covers. Let's keep people moving. I got to pay everybody in the band. So we'll do the song and dance. We're going to play some of our originals too, but we'll do the 60-40 split or whatever. Right. But I think he was really earnest about, no, I'm going to play my songs. And I'm going to wear you down. I'm going to make you listen to them. And then he went out with a bluegrass group called the Wooks, and they kind of played together. And then again, this community kind of rallied around him. We had a festival that only lasted for a few years. It was called Kicking It on the Creek. And it was deep in Estill County where his wife is from. And the people who put that on, the first year they did it, it was just to pay for purgatory. Like they were raising money to help finance, to help pay Sturgill to produce this record and get studio time, right? So it was really like a community effort. So you had all these people, everybody that played those festivals were like rooting for it because he was kind of like our quarterback, right? And I don't know. And I think the fact that he grew up in the mountains and they're not going to let you get too slick and fancy. Again, you can't go back home and like even Chris, you know, I don't think he's a country singer. I think he's the best R&B singer in Nashville. But he's very, very like humble and knows what he came from and how lucky he is. And I think that's part of it too. I don't think they were chasing money or fame, right?
Absolutely.
You tell me. So I interviewed Jack too, and it seems like what is the country scene in England like, or in the UK? Like, what is that like? Like, how does that translate there? You know, because like bluegrass is huge in Japan, right?
Yeah. And
you'll see these Japanese people singing these like old time mountain songs, and so it's interesting to me. He was like, there would be like country nights where they bring in the mechanical bulls and like kind of like I don't know, like not like playing dress up, you know what I'm saying? But it's like trying to make it as authentic as you can.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, mate. If I'm being completely honest, this is just my opinion. It's cheese. You know, it's pop country. It kind of rules the airwaves. We don't have many country stations in England on the mainstream DAB radios. So you're listening to, you know, the likes of Morgan Wallen and Megan Maroney lately, and
my daughter loves Megan Maroney.
Oh, I think all girls do. But like you, mate, you know, like I said, I think everyone has, you know, their own opinion, and yeah, I think there's a place for those artists. But for me, it's way too pop, and I don't get drawn to that. I found it really frustrating, in fact, that, you know, I'm not listening to the likes of Flatland Cavalry. I'm not listening to Tyler. I'm not listening to Sturgill Simpson, any of these artists that I love on any mainstream radio. You know, I'm having to dig through Spotify and just randomly come across them sometimes. And like you say, it's a lot of...
But that's the same thing here. Like,
oh, really?
Like we have tons of country radio stations, but it is very much programmed to your mainstream, the same stuff. You know, the same 10 songs played every hour. And we have to find the music almost the same way. You know, it's, you know, your algorithm on Spotify, you know, suggesting songs to you. You know, I'm discovering people all the time that live 3 hours from me. You know, it's like, but it's interesting to me because my experience, I've never played in Europe, but it seems like the Europe audience doesn't have the same biases towards music that Americans do. Like country music is very divisive here, where it's like, you like pop country, well, you're an idiot and I hate you, or I love Morgan Wallen and Tyler Childers is a hillbilly. You know, it's like, my experience with my friends over there has been very much that it's people like good music and they don't really care what the style is or the genre, and are very, maybe they just like that it's American, but at the same time, I feel like all of my friends have had really good experiences, you know, playing to European audiences.
Yeah, definitely. And well, for me, it's like I say, it's a lot of pop country. I found some good success listening to, and it's a bit of a shout out for, is it 97.9 The Ranch? Yeah. And, you know, I've discovered some awesome artists like Adam Hood and 49 Winchester, who are actually quite big here now.
Really cool.
And those bands. And it's so refreshing to listen to that kind of music on the radio, well, internet radio, then darling in UK stuff, and it's the same old stuff, and you can't get away from it. So it's interesting to hear that it's very similar out there. I didn't think it would be the case.
No, I mean, and even still, like pop radio is still like, the king, on all the big stations. But yeah, all the country stations are still now, I will say, once you get west of the Mississippi River into Oklahoma and Texas, like you said, their radio is different. So like it has a lot more variety. You would really like all the K stations that are on out west. And in Texas, it's like, of course, they think they're a sovereign country anyway. But they, Texas artists can tour Texas exclusively their whole career and never leave and make a living. It's so big. And there's so many places to play. I only got to play in Texas a few times with Jericho Woods, and I loved every minute of it. But yeah, look for the Texas radio stuff. I think you'll dig that. But yeah, I'm finding the same challenges. I never had any luck getting on. Now, every little town has an independent radio station, right? Like locally owned or whatever, who generally can program whatever they want. So if you want to kind of get in, like for us, like we would ship, files to those stations.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we're playing your town today. Could you put this on? And, you're not going to get a ton of airplay like that, but every little radio station that adds you, is a help.
Absolutely.
It's still weird hearing your song on the radio too.
I bet it's really cool. But I've got to the point where I was like, do I set up my own radio station? I'm so annoyed with the fact that I've got to kind of dig deep to find decent radio.
Or XM. Do y'all have XM radio over there?
I'm not sure. I'll be honest. I'm not sure.
So XM radio is satellite radio, and they have like the Outlaw Country station, and they have like Willie's Roadhouse, and they've got all these things where like a lot of them are curated by artists. Well, just like there's Tom Petty radio, and there's Grateful Dead radio. There's some that are dedicated to this. If you like outlaw country, or you like red dirt, or you like, they're out there. It's just like you said, it's not mainstream.
No, and that's why I kind of put together the playlist on Spotify. I'm digging out and speaking to most of the artists that I'm finding on Instagram, and there's so many awesome kind of tracks that I'm just building into this random playlist that I'm putting out there. Whether anyone actually listens to it apart from me, whatever. But otherwise, there'll be Rugged Revival Radio perhaps in the new year, and we'll go from there. But then
a music festival. And then,
mate, I'm going to get into your realms where I'm just going to have all these projects, and my wife's going to get so pissed off with me, honestly.
Hey, if you're not pissing anybody off, you're not doing anything.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That was something actually me and Rugged Ronnie, my co-host, was discussing for next year, whether we put some local bands together and set up a venue and go from there. It'll probably never happen, but we'll see.
Why not? Look, so we'll talk about my rambles for a second. So I started out by going to a local business, and I said, hey, look, I want to do something special. We're about an hour from Louisville, Kentucky, like where the Kentucky Derby is, and it has a lot of culture there, but we don't have anything here. And nobody around here is going to drive to Louisville to go to the Palace Theater and watch a show. So I was like, I'm trying to do this cool thing. I need like $2,000. I'll give you some free seats. I'll give you lots of advertising. You can give stuff away, swag or whatever. But I need that to get the right kind of people here. So we did that. I did a ticketed, show on Eventbrite, and I had Tony Logue here the first time. I had Cole Chaney. He just came and played solo. I had a band called Wolfpen Branch, which was an awesome bluegrass band, and it just kind of started the whole thing off. We sold it out. Everybody loved it. We had food trucks and all that, and then from there it was like, okay, it's got to get better and better and better, and it is. It's like people started to trust me because they hadn't heard of these people. And I was like, believe me, I promise you. Because the first time they're like, these guys are good, but I don't know the words of these songs. I'm like, but are they good? And like, yeah, they're great. I'm like, just sit and listen, like go buy their CD, buy a T-shirt, help these guys out, get them to the next show. And it has evolved into everybody's excited because they know that it's going to be quality, and they know it's not. You can go to the local bar and see a Journey cover band. We can do that every weekend, but this is always going to be, something that is curated, and I curate the artwork. I try to get, artists that are out there doing posters for concerts to be the people doing that. It's a whole thing. I'm trying to like give as much love to as many different people as I can, and I
bring
think
it all together.
And I think that's been the key to the success. The artists feel valued. The people who are coming to watch the shows feel like that they're getting something for their money, and then my heart swells because it just gives me a great feeling. I feel like everybody's getting a benefit from it. Now, sometimes I lose money and sometimes I don't make money. That's okay. That's not why I'm doing it.
No, I mean, it's a good segue, in fact, in terms of your artwork, and it'd be good to talk about. Is it Big Head Studios that you still own? What goes on there?
So, I guess about 15 years ago, I had a friend, and I always did artwork, and I would paint and dabble. And I had a friend that said, what, people will pay for this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. He said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to commission a big portrait. And you charge me whatever you're going to charge me, but I'm going to turn around and sell it for like $700. I'm like, whatever. So I did like a Jimmy Buffett. I charged him $125 because that's how much it cost me to do it. And he sold it for like $600. And then we did another one, and he sold it for like $750. And he said, you need to take this serious. Like, there's a market for this. So we did an art show, and I told myself, if we're going to do a show, I want to have lots of work. So I did a painting 30 days in a row. For 30 days, I did a painting every day, and some of them I didn't use, but for the most part, like, this built up this first show. I sold a lot of pieces, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then I kind of got into the bourbon world. I've got a piece in an installation at Maker's Mark Distillery. So, like, when you go and do the tour, there's a tasting room there. There you go. Yeah, shameless plug. I would then they would ask me to do some other things, and then it led to this relationship with Beam Suntory, because Jim Suntory owns Jim Beam. They own Basil Hayden. They own Knob Creek. They own Mark. And so anytime they have they're trying to do these big installations, a lot of times I'll get a call. And I've bitten off more than I can chew, a bunch, because they always want big stuff.
Yeah, but we were talking recently because you went to Bourbon and Beyond, and I said, "Oh, are you performing there?" And you said, "No, it was the art installations that you were putting up." So, what kind of things did you get involved in?
So they had these huge, like, 8-foot wide by 16-foot towers that have 4 sides on them, and they put a lot of print artwork on there. And Jim Beam buys a couple of these, and then I usually build something here at home, kind of offsite, and then install it. So I did 4 16-foot pieces that went on this big pillar that was in the middle of this festival with 150,000 people on.
Wow!
They paid me really well, and I got passes the whole weekend.
And you got to see which artist then? So I remember Tyler was headlining, was he? And
he was headlining last night. It was my daughter took all my passes for Zach Bryan, so I didn't get to see him. But I'm old, and I went and watched Dave Matthews Band on Friday. That was fun.
Awesome.
But no, it was seeing Tyler was a real kind of like, not that Tyler and I are friends, but a couple of guys in his band are friends and the people I've known for a long time. And I messaged CJ, who plays acoustic guitar for him. And I was like, man, like it was so great to see you all in front of 100,000 people. Like it was, it gives me goosebumps now because I remember the little shithole places that they were playing before, and we were playing together, and there's no jealousy. Like it's like seeing your son, score, a touchdown. Like it was just great, and to see. And again, like the festival that I'm on with him, part of the reason why I got on that festival was because I was complimenting the producers of that festival, basically saying kudos to you for having Tyler on this festival, because I knew they were going to catch some heat from pop country people for adding this hillbilly to their roster.
No, is it that bad?
I mean, there's read the comments. Like, there's people like, who is this guy? Like, why don't? I'm serious. You're talking about millions and millions of people. There's a very small percentage of people that are listening to Americana music, and country, and this style of country music in particular. It's a very niche thing. Like, I feel like it's a pretty small community of people too, and it seems like all of these people have run into each other along the way somehow. But
see, I think I'm out of touch because me and my co-host went to see Tyler Childers in London this year, probably February time, and I was so surprised because I thought it was going to cost me a fortune. It's like seeing Chris Stapleton. Really reasonable prices. Small, not a small venue. It was the London
like
Hammersmith
or something.
It was the Hammersmith, so it was quite a big venue still, and it was sold out. And everyone had such an amazing time. So I was like, I'm so glad someone like that I love is coming over to the UK, because we don't get an awful lot. I think we've had 49 Winchester not too long ago, but it's kind of rare that we do get the kind of stuff that I'm into.
Right.
Over here.
How far are you from London?
I'm in the Midlands, so I'm probably on a train about an hour and a half, so not too far. England's a small place, man. So, we can get to, when we moan about, a journey that's an hour and a half, whereas, it's probably nothing to you guys.
Well, where I live, it's an hour to everywhere, So, yeah, so I know what you mean.
I was checking out where you live because I thought I'm really intrigued where the Randall Barn is. And is it Webster, Kentucky,
yes.
that you are? And you're 2.5 hours from Nashville?
Yep.
Yeah.
It actually kind of works out nice, though. I can be creative sometimes. Like if I don't have somebody that I just absolutely want, I can kind of look at tour like itineraries for people and go, who's playing in Nashville and then coming to Louisville or going to Indianapolis, and you can kind of be like, this person's going to be close. Well, it's like we had the Wilder Blue here.
Cool. Years ago. I like them.
And they were in this area, during that time of year, and you throw them a little bit of money, and they're like, yeah, we'll fit that into our schedule, so yeah, we're kind of in a good place, but I do hit some radius clause issues every now and then where I'm too close to Louisville or too close to Nashville for a certain amount of days.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, I came across the Wilder Blue because I think they covered the Eagles track, didn't they? And then they kind of put me on some.
They're fantastic. Like they're kind of like a Texas supergroup, and Luke Combs liked them, and so he took them out this summer on like 13 of his stadium shows, and like I think they have the same manager as him now, and like I really feel like next year is going to be a big year for them, but they are very much like not what's on the radio. So I'm interested to see what happens,
And he was on your podcast recently, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah, he's such a cool dude. Like he's like I don't know, he's like a sage. He's I feel like he's probably got some Native American in him because he's kind of like, I don't know, he gives me that vibe, which I love, like
that chilled out kind of vibe.
Yeah, like there's probably some peyote involved. He probably likes going out into the desert.
Awesome, man. I feel like we've talked a lot about every artist going except for your stuff. And every time I have somebody on the podcast, I make a conscious effort of sitting in my man cave for an hour or two, just going through your back catalogue. And I want to know more about, you talked about Jericho Woods, and moving forward. So, you've put out a lot of music over the last few years. If you go on your Spotify, the albums you put out over the last, since 2022, I would say.
Yeah. I guess I put 3 or 4 out. I did do a rock record just because.
Dad rock.
Because, why the hell not? I grew up in the 90s, Nirvana, Foo Fighters, Pearl Jam, all that. It's music that I loved. But every time I open my mouth, it always sounds like country, but I was like, no, you know what? I've got some songs that will work for this. I'm going to do a rock record. And
the very different albums I've noticed, I was looking at the very first one and I wrote down some notes and I thought it's very kind of upbeat, good vibe, polished sound. And then you go into a lot of folk and then some straight up rock and then straight up country. So it's like a real mixture. And particularly the last one, the one that you sent me over Instagram, Little Fires. And I thought it's very R&B, that one.
Yeah. And I don't know where the hell that came from either. Like, I don't know. So I would call myself a songwriter. And so sometimes you just like, and like I said, like one of the things that I had a problem with Nashville was I don't want to write the same song every time. And they really like formulas and they like, well, this is what you sound like. This is what you do. And but you write a song and the way it sounds in your head, sometimes it's something that that's not in your wheelhouse, but it's like, hey, what the hell? We'll give it a shot. And I like R&B too. So, it's like, I don't have a boss when it comes to music. Like I can.
Who's your R&B inspiration, Josh?
I love Al Green. I love Marvin Gaye. I love, in high school and middle school, I loved Boyz II Men and like Jodeci.
They were cool, man.
So it's like, yeah.
I was getting Motown Philly vibes off some of your tracks.
There you go. Yeah. But that's also the thing. Like, so Sturgill's a huge influence, right? And what has Sturgill done? He said, I'm going to do 5 records and every one of them is going to be different. And that's it. And that's real freeing to me to go, you know what? I don't have to be a thing. Now, at the end of the day, I still really like country. That kind of has like a Southern rock folky edge to it. Like I'm more of like a John Mellencamp probably than I am a Tyler Childers. But love Allman Brothers, love all that kind of stuff. But
so what kind of stuff did you grow up? I mean, I in the last say 20 years, Allman Brothers have been one of my best bands. I remember watching a documentary about Woodstock, quite some time back, and that really put me back into it with, Canned Heat.
So my dad was a big 70s rock guy. So he loved Chicago and he loved the Doobie Brothers and he loved the Eagles and I always loved the Eagles too. For me, probably my number one band through the 2000s was the Black Crowes. I loved them so much. But I love John Mayer. Like I love.
I've got something to reveal to you. I'm a huge John Mayer fan, and this is really sad. I've got a John Mayer tattoo. I've never revealed that to anyone on the podcast before. Do you want to see it? This is so sad. I don't think you can actually see it properly from.
Oh, but it's from the. Which album was that?
That was.
It wasn't Born and Raised. It was.
That was him on stage. That was quite early. Not early on. His early stuff. Funny enough, I wasn't a fan. I had a girlfriend from Florida when I was 18, so early 2000s, and she put me onto John Mayer, and I listened to it, and I thought, I don't like this. And then I picked it up a few years later when he did the trio.
It's pretty fluffy.
Yeah.
Early on. I remember seeing him at a small club. And I took my friend Kyle Daniel, who's now an artist also. He was a student at the place where I was student teaching at the time in college. So I snuck him into this bar. We watched John Mayer, and oddly enough, Jim James from My Morning Jacket opened acoustic solo. But this was like 2002, and but yeah, the early stuff I just thought he was really technically good and all that. But we're about the same age, so like a lot of the records that when the content was like really like I was like, yeah, I feel like that too, you know. So for me, a lot of times that's the thing, but it's not really cool to be a fan of John Mayer.
I know, and certainly not to have a tattoo of John Mayer. That's
but I've got
sad.
This tattoo, which is similar to the one he has. Mine is my kid's birthstone colors.
Awesome.
But so I can see it while I'm playing guitar. But I don't know. I think I had a lot of commonalities with him, and I think he's a chameleon too. That's why. If you want me to do something different, tell me you like what I did last time, and you know I'll probably be like, no, that's not what I do. and I kind of have that. I kind of have you know, when people be like, well, you're a painter, I'm like, no, actually I'm not a painter, I'm a musician. And then when somebody says, well I know you from your music, I'm like, well, did you know that I also I'm a carpenter, you know? So like I don't like to be pigeonholed either. I will say that I have I've got another record like ready to go. Well, not ready to go. I've got to make some tweaks. But
do you I was interested, you know, because you've got such an awesome setup at the barn. Are the recordings done at the barn, or do you go elsewhere?
On that record, nobody asked for this. I recorded in the barn. It's just easier to do it in my shop. So here in the studio, I've got it's temperature controlled. I've got plenty of power, and I've got my racks and all the equipment and everything I need. So yeah, the last couple I've just done here, but it's but on this record, I very much just want to. The way I did it was I set up 2 stereo mics, and if I couldn't play it and sing it in one take, I didn't keep it. So I didn't want to do a bunch of overdubs. I didn't want to. You know, obviously I did like some harmony. My friend Anna Blanton, who toured with Coulter Wall and for a long time and plays with a ton of other great groups, she came and played some fiddle on it. Nick is working on doing a verse on one of the songs.
Awesome.
So we'll kind of he'll have a cameo in one. And then a guy named Jake Groves, who's currently playing harmonica for Coulter Wall, he's from Louisville, so he's going to do some harmonica work on it, but really raw and stripped down and just very song based.
So where did you record the other albums? If it wasn't at the barn,
in here. But then I'll say this too: COVID really taught it. It made us all put a lot more things in our tool belt. I've had. Like I've got friends that are drummers, or Randy Jaffe from the Wallflowers and the Foo Fighters played on my rock record. And all I do is send him the tracks, and he sent me the waves back to me from California. And, you know, so like everybody has a setup now if they're any good. So I can farm my drums out to Nashville, or I can, and I love being in a studio with people, and I've done that. But
is this a new project? I'm trying to annoy your wife now. So could you have a studio set up at the barn that other musicians come, and that's the place to be to record their albums?
So we are this Saturday. So LV Shane played here in the spring, and we did a board and room recording of that show. I don't know what he's going to do with it. Nick is recording this show, and he is rumored that I've heard from the guy who's recording it that he may be releasing it for like flood relief, because we've had the hurricanes here locally.
Yes. Yeah.
But I have had a couple people reach out to me. I don't have the right kind of equipment. I don't have enough equipment. I don't think.
Yeah.
I could do it. Like if they wanted to do it on a budget, like we could 100% record in the barn, and I think I will eventually.
I just want to fill your head with more ideas, just to give you more projects. Because I would love it. I mean, because obviously it's a bit of a flight trek for me to pop over tomorrow. I would love to see Nick Jameson and Jonathan and Abigail Payton. That would be a dream for me, and to perhaps even just see a recording of it would be awesome.
So this is what you need to do. So I already have it, and actually the contract is pulled up on my computer right now. Have you heard of John R. Miller?
Yes, he actually supported Tyler Childers when we went to the show in London.
So he's the headliner for my next ramble. Nobody knows that yet.
Not yet.
It's Friday, May the 2nd.
Ooh.
Okay. That's also Derby week. So you could go to the Kentucky Derby on Saturday, watch a show here that Friday, spend the week going around Kentucky, checking things out. Like, it's a beautiful time of year. Your wife would love to see the horse races. Like, you could stay with me. Like, we can make this happen.
There you go. That's a promise, mate. You can't go back on that now.
Nope,
my wife was
struggling.
She's like, "What?" Because I'm 40 in January. I'm an old person like you, mate. So I take the mick, but I'm pretty old myself. And she was saying, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Well, I would love to go out to Kentucky. That's always been my dream because I love bourbon. Hence the the drinking."
And I can, and I've got friends at distilleries, and we could. Like, I can line you up maybe some exclusive stuff, and we could do the bourbon trail.
You're my new best friend, Josh.
We can make it fun. I'm telling you. Then you could probably do a live podcast with John R. while he's here, and listen, you're coming to Kentucky. Like,
I'm coming, man. I'm gonna play at this, and she'll be so put in a position that she can't say no.
Yep, she'll have it. Wait, listen, if she does for your 40th birthday, like, come on.
She can't ruin my 40th. And plus, I'm marrying her in May next year, so
So this would be pre-wedding.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's pretty reasonable.
It's kind of like your bachelor party.
Stag do, we call it over. Yeah, exactly. I think that would be the perfect stag do at Josh's barn.
Do you want to get married? Like in the barn, because we do that too.
I'll see if I can get that past there. I've spent enough money already. Seriously, it's crazy. So, are you all set for the weekend then? Because I know you put out the tickets and brought. Is it a sold out event? Are you still
it's not tickets? Sold out. I still have tickets available. It'll be it'll probably end up selling out before it's over with. A lot of people, local folks, will decide they want to come the day of. The one around Derby always sells out. The October one, usually a little bit less. It's harder to sell out just because there's so much going on. But it's like, this is my favorite time of year. Like, it's beautiful. Like, we just harvested all the crops. The deer are coming out as the sun sets every night. We got a pretty nice spot. We've had aurora borealis and supermoons and comets and everything else. So we don't have any light pollution here, so you can see everything at night.
Get out to the Randall at the Ramble. Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. So it's a big people park up at your barn then. So you've got people coming over. It's quite a strange venue, not your usual place that people would go to, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's very much it's a barn. So when I grew up, we put square bales of hay up in the loft. We had cattle, and like we'd feed out the sides of the barn. But we started leasing our farm out to a local farmer who raised the crops before my grandfather passed away. So we didn't have cattle. We were getting ready. We were in the process of trying to buy the farm, right before COVID. And I'm like, what are we going to do with this thing? Like, it's going to fall down. Like, it's too beautiful to not do something with. And my wife was like, absolutely not. You're not doing a venue. I'm like, but if I don't do it, like, it's kind of like, so she said, don't start. And I went ahead and started anyway.
I need your powers of persuasion, mate. Honestly. Good.
My dad used to always say, it's a lot easier to get forgiveness than permission.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's just, got to work on it, and my grandfather would say it's not very good for cattle or hay anymore, but there's so many local people who grew up and had helped my grandfather work. They'll tell me all the time when they're at a show, they're like, I used to put hay up in this barn with your granddad, or I worked cattle with him one time. And obviously I spent a lot of time up, in the barn too. And, it's I don't know, it's as much of a heart project for me to just kind of keep it going. I don't know, farms and family farms in particular are few and far between now. More and more are selling out to corporate interest or to development, or like right now there's a lot of solar farms that are moving in, big venture capitalists are leasing farms and covering them with solar panels. And so it's kind of changing the countryside. And for us, it's like, how can we figure out a way to just keep it the way it is? And using the barn for that is a revenue source that allows us to say, you know what, we can make the farm payment and not have to run 50 cattle and or have pigs or tobacco or any of that kind of stuff. So,
and it's a beautiful barn, isn't it? And you found yourself a little niche there.
Listen, I haven't advertised, aside from the concerts, we have 4 or 5 weddings in there a year. I've never put advertisements in the paper or online or anything. It's just word of mouth. I feel like we're providing a service, so that's kind of the way I look at it. But yeah,
I wish I knew about this beforehand, because my wife has cost me a lot of money to get married in a sort of barn/teepee next year, and we could have gone to Kentucky and done all this. So instead, it will be the stag do, and we'll be over at Josh's barn and doing all the fun stuff, man.
Listen, I can call somebody in and we can just make it happen. We can get somebody to officiate it. I'll be a witness or whatever.
Like you say, it's easier to ask for forgiveness. I'm going to take the words of your granddad. So, let's talk about your podcast, mate. I love your podcast, and I messaged you the other day because I'm a huge fan of Nick Jameson, and it was so interesting talking about him, and and he's such a chilled out, kind of down to earth dude. But you've also had the likes of Hannah Dasher, the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and
she's a hot mess. Well, so for me, it was a friend and I had tried to do a podcast a couple years ago, and it just never really got traction, and it was hard to coordinate, our schedules and stuff. But it's one of those things where really what I crave, and maybe it may be more than the doing the art and performing for people, is the human connection, right? And I love biographies, and I love watching documentaries on, when I quit work to play music full time, I've read and I immersed myself in how did these other people do what they did, and trying to learn from it, and just I'm a real big fan of people in general. So the podcast is just a neat way. I kind of started with people who are playing here. And then it kind of okay, other people I have relationships with to kind of get it off the ground. And then once you've done a few, you can say, hey, I've got some stuff you can look at. This is what I do. I'm interested in what you're doing. I'd like to have you on. It kind of focusing on Kentucky people, but not necessarily. But music, the arts. I just had one on today, a guy who's a fantastic visual artist named Wiley Caudle, and he did a lot of stuff for the Kentucky Derby, and he does murals, and everybody's story is interesting to me, and so I'm like you, these are people that I'm a fan of, and I get to build a relationship with them, and hopefully I'm helping them. I'm not getting millions of views, right? But if nothing else, they know they've got a fan. And that there's one guy who thinks that they're interesting enough to have a conversation with, and hopefully it inspires them, and they continue doing what they're doing. I told you that I want my table to be bigger and bigger. And if there's somebody out there that I've come in contact with that I can help, I'd love to help them. It's also nice to be able to call people, and sometimes they can do a favor for you. You can't have enough friends, and you can't have enough contacts, especially in the arts. And so many times it's like, hey, I'm coming to your town. Do you want to grab a drink? Or I have this opportunity for you. Would you be interested in it? So, that's why I'm doing it. I just like people.
No, I love that, mate. I'm like you. Nothing better than sitting down with perhaps a beer, a whiskey, watching a biography or documentary. Maybe it's showing my age, mate, but it's so interesting. And like I said, that's how I kind of got back into the music world, was with the Woodstock documentary, and it was just like, it's so amazing. It doesn't seem like that type of thing happens anymore.
But it is. Like, we're talking about people from 2 hours away from me that have somehow found their way, into your living room and into your, onto your phone. And I don't know, it's just a different animal. And we receive and exchange information so much differently than we did then.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't have to tour now if you don't want to. You can do TikTok lives, 3 times a week, and people will send you money. And like, I don't do that, but you could. And, but I do think it's the Wild West, in that anything goes, and you don't have to have permission anymore. Now, there's a lot more noise, and it's harder to cut through. And, I don't know, you got to have some lucky breaks, or you have to be, I do think the amount of artists that are out there, the people who are cutting through, are just spectacular. Like, there's something about them, So it really does kind of force you to be really, really good at what you do if you really want to kind of break through. Because there's a lot of people, like there's 1 million people who sing as good as I do, who write, their own songs, who, whatever. But you never know when, which song is going to be the one that really resonates and that
breaks. It's so difficult. Yeah. I mean, social media is such a weird animal. When we've at our age, we've kind of grown up from.
I don't understand it.
I don't understand it. The algorithm. To be honest, I don't care. I don't care. I just want to talk to the people that I like, the artists that I like, and I find the artists I like, they don't have a huge platform.
I don't care. I want to say I don't care, but I 100% do care.
I'm lying.
I don't know. I still get the endorphin rush, and I still, but I'll post something I think is great, and it'll get 400 views on TikTok, and then just something random, I put the right hashtag on it, and it'll get 1,000 views or.
Doesn't that piss you off? You know what pissed me off recently was, like, I'm posting all these things. Our main aim for the Rugged Revival is to platform unsigned artists, and I'm trying my very best to kind of say, these guys are awesome. I listen to them. Let's kind of put them out there. And then my 10-year-old, with his stupid little TikTok, put something like an aerosol can in his football boot, and he got 7.2 million views. And I'm like, are you bloody serious, man?
So my 12-year-old, for his birthday, we let him have a YouTube page, and he likes to animate and draw, and he does little shorts on YouTube, and he's got more subscribers than I do. But I can't say that mine is better than his, because his is good. But I don't get it. I think it's a necessary evil. You have to do it. You've got to participate in that. I don't know. I mean, that is the one thing that if I could farm that out, I would 100% be like, hey, schedule these posts for me.
I don't have the time to kind of figure out the algorithm or the care, but one day we might crack it, Josh. Who's your favorite guest on the podcast anyway so far? I know it's putting you on the spot, but who's been fascinating for you?
I really like talking to Nick. Um, I've got one. I've got a good friend in a bluegrass band called the Poe Ramlin Boys. But he quit the band before I could release the podcast. He's like, we're gonna have to do another one. So that one was a great podcast, but we're gonna have to do it again. I've still got some people on the hook that I haven't released yet. I did one with Sunny Sweeney yesterday that'll come out in a few months.
Sonny's been touring UK recently, I saw.
She's going to be over there starting November 5th, I think, for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I might try and get tickets because I think she's not playing too far from me. So that's interesting. I was surprised because I thought that's someone that I like, and I think I posted not too long ago. So brilliant.
Yeah, she's one of them that's been through she was on the same label as Taylor Swift at a time when Taylor was still in country music exclusively, and kind of got chewed up by that whole thing, and now she has made a career just by being her own person and doing everything on her own. And she hosts a radio show on XM Radio now, and she's cool. You should definitely go check her out.
I'm going to try and message her. Whether she'll reply, we'll see. But
she will. I Instagram messaged her and she said, "I'm super busy, but email my tour manager and she'll line it up." And here we are. So
awesome. If she's over here, it'll be a great conversation, I think, because I love her work, and like you say, it's just someone I'm interested in, and selfishly, someone I like on the podcast. So
there you go. I think she'll do it.
Can't beat it, man. But I mean, one of the big things that we do, like I say, we try and spotlight artists that we've unsigned or lesser known artists that are ones to watch. For you, Josh, mate, who would you kind of put on a pedestal for this particular podcast?
So I'm a big fan, obviously, of Nick, and I don't think he could. He deserves a ton of support. There is a band that I've had here at the barn called Wayne Graham. They're more like Wilco, so they're very much country guys, but they're super. They play super smart like music, and but they're actually going to be playing over there at I don't know what the name of the festival is. It's the one Jack just posted that he's playing also. But Wayne Graham is great. We've got a guy
Holland's concert that he's playing.
I'm not sure what it is, but I know they posted they were on it. One of my brothers from another mother, his name is Kyle Daniel. He just played. He was just over. He's played country to country before, and he did a couple. He was over there playing with Southall, I guess in August. So he's been over to the UK, and actually I'm featuring a song that we co-wrote on my upcoming acoustic record. So I don't know. There's so many, man. I've Cole Chaney. He's kind of on the rise. He's taking his time, which I think is neat. Like, he hadn't released a new record yet, and I know that he's got one. I know he's been writing songs. But he's kind of taken the Sturgill model of, I'm going to tour for a year. I'm going to build the brand. So yeah, and of course Tyler. And
there's been so many that have just taken off recently. I think $10 Cowboy has, particularly in the UK, has taken off. Charlie Crockett.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen that kind of meteoric rise over the last 12 months. It's been incredible.
And he's so authentic. You know, like he sounds like he sounded when he was on the sidewalks of New Orleans. You know,
he's so unique. Yeah, absolutely, and we love him. But is there anything else that you want to kind of shout out, Josh? You know, we've gone through loads of stuff, and I'm conscious of taking up your time, man.
I've got a lot of stuff going on. I need to cut back on the amount of beer I drink.
No, you don't.
The doctor told me the other day I gained like 10 pounds since last year, so I'm trying to avoid outgrowing all my blue jeans. But no, I'm thrilled that to connect with people, especially from other countries. I mean, a dream for me would be to come over and play for you guys over in the UK, and maybe someday we can make that happen.
Mate, this is where I want the grand old, not the Grand Old Opry, but the Grand Old Revival. I would love to see Josh Mitcham and friends over here, and we can make that happen.
We've talked about how we could. There's enough of us who could probably, like, we could have like kind of like one band, but kind of revolve like
with Nick. Bring Nick over, please.
Yeah, we could 100% like try to make all come over together and try to split the costs and do the thing. It would take some planning and maybe a sponsor and some good luck. But
talk to me, mate. Honestly, we will make that happen. I would love that. And
I would love it too.
Where can we find you, mate?
I do have joshmitcham.com. On Facebook, it's Josh Mitcham Music and Art. I'm on the Instagram. Every Damn Friday has an Instagram. I have a Big Head Studios page on Facebook too for the artwork. I'm getting into that time of year where I'm doing a lot of commissions for gifts and Christmas presents and things like that. So,
did you do some swaps with Jack Branning as well?
We haven't done one yet. So I've got to get back in touch with him and be like, hey, listen, I know you're big stuff right now.
You should paint each other, mate. Nude.
Yeah.
That'd be weird.
He might. I only need a little fig leaf.
Oh, I don't want to know that, mate. So, normally this is where we plug the Rugged Revival, and I'm so bad at doing it. But, the usual stuff, follow, like, share. And we're blue tick wankers now, mate. Honestly, we pay Mark Zuckerberg to feel important. So we did that recently.
Look, so I do the same thing. But I do think in what we're doing, it gives you a little bit of credibility that you're not a bot, that you're not just, so that when you do reach out to people, the blue check means something.
I did think that, because I'm starting to reach out to a lot of people now, and they're like, who the hell are the Rugged Revival, and why should we buy to them? And let's see if the blue tick makes any difference. I don't know. I'm going to, let's message Sunny Sweeney later and see if she replies.
There you go.
I'll say, Josh told me to come over this way.
Hey, if you don't do it, you're a wuss. You're a coward.
You've dared me now, mate. So, this is where we sign off to say, a toast to the grit, the grind, and the revival. And Josh is going to kindly play for us a couple of tracks, man, aren't you? So I'm going to end my waffling now and hand over to Josh.
All right, guys. So here's a song that's the title track on the album that I released back in August. It's called Little Fires. I've been starting little fires. I've been watching each one burn. They're slowly growing higher. Don't think I'll ever learn. Like love lost in the flame. The smoke can make you cry. I've been starting little fires. My hope's like embers in the sky. I've been starting little fires. Start a new one every day. Burning with desire. So hot that the rain can wash away. I keep soaking up the flames, trading gasoline for my doubt. I keep starting little fires till I'm all burned out. Keep starting little fires. I keep starting little fires. I keep starting little fires. I keep starting little fires. All right, so this is actually like a 20-year-old song, but I don't think I've put it out ever. I'm not sure. I have to go back and look at the discography, but it's a song called "Drive It Like You Stole It." So. We were playing down in Memphis for some boys who'd rather hear the jukebox play. Yeah. They said we want to hear some Skinner, so they cranked out, gave me 3 steps right away. Well, they must have not liked it, cause I started breaking bottles on the floor. Well, now being a simple man, I grabbed my shit and headed for the door, yeah. Well, they chased us in the alley. It was 26 to 5. We didn't think we may get out alive. I said, get those tires and burning to that road, you just can't hold it. Throw it down and give her hell and drive it like you stole it. Yeah, like you stole it. Well, we had a show on Friday, and me and my woman ain't been getting along. I came home from a long day's work. She and my guitar were both gone. Yeah. Yeah, she taking away only thing I love more than her. Well, I called up my buddy, slammed the door, and met him at the curb. Well, I jumped out of a window with my guitar in my hand. Said, come on, boys, get there as fast as you can. I said, get those tires are burning to that road, you just can't hold it. Throw it down, give her hell, drive it like you stole it. Yeah, like you stole it. Well, sometimes life gets me in a hurry, but as long as you drive fast, you won't have to worry. I said to get those tires are burning to that road, you just can't hold it. Go it down, give her hell, and drive it like you stole it. Yeah, like you stole it. Yeah, drive it like you stole it. 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 Hey.